Hello, everyone, as I'd like to welcome everybody. And it's great to see you and welcome to our second episode of our product training. And today we are focusing on Botswana and Zimbabwe and an itinerary that we created about, I think, 3 years ago. And sometimes when you create an itinerary, and usually we say every product takes about 3 years, has a life cycle of 3 years until it really hits the ground running. However, with this safari, which is our Intimate Botswana and Zimbabwe encounter, we hit the ground running, and already in year 2, we filled all of our departures, and our agents asked for additional departures, which allowed us in the second and in the third year to almost double our departures for this safari. So I'm excited to present some product training. I also do apologize for the background noise. There is lockdown is finished, so building is going on in the background that I unfortunately did not have the power to stop. So Johan, welcome. You are the person that worked out the itinerary and that created an itinerary. So first of all, congratulations on a great trip that you and your team have put together. And we are being joined today by Sharon Stead from Amalinda Collection, who will talk about Matobo Hills, which is one of the highlights and wow factors of this itinerary, as well as Byron, who will be talking about Lake Kariba and Zambezi cruises. Norbert, one of our spectacular and well-liked and well-traveled professional guides that has taken already quite a few clients along this journey, who will talk about Hwange National Park. And and then myself, Katja, CEO of the JENMAN Group, JENMAN African Safaris and Hideaways, and Johan, who's our General Manager at JENMAN African Safaris. So let's go, Johan. Welcome and present us your product.
Thank you, Katja. Yeah, I'm also very excited today to join this training with everyone. We've got a very exciting itinerary with some incredible wow factors that we're going to get to a little bit later. But like Katja mentioned, we put this trip together about 3 years ago, and after the first year already in high season, most of the departures is already sold out. This is an itinerary that's a little bit different. It's got very unique and special experiences. A couple of wow factors is always nice. You know, when we look into a new itinerary, we want to do something that's different. So this itinerary really captures something that's unique and different, and also the standard of accommodation is really, really incredible. We're going to speak about them a little bit later. Okay, so the Intimate Botswana and Zimbabwe encounter. This is a 15-day safari. We'll start in Victoria Falls. We'll stay there for 1 night, then we'll make our way to Ntwerwe National Park for 2 nights. After Ntwerwe National Park, we'll make our way back to Victoria Falls and then down to Hwange National Park. We'll stay there for 2 nights in Hwange National Park. Then from Hwange, we'll go to Lake Kariba, where we'll be on an amazing houseboat for 2 nights, starting from Binga and then working our way back to Binga again. Then after the houseboat, we'll come down past Hwange, all the way down to Matobo National Park, one of the oldest parks in Zimbabwe. We'll stay there for 2 nights. Then after that, we'll make our way to Amalinda Lodge. We'll stay there at Amalinda Lodge, and then Makgadikgadi Pans. We'll have the Ntwerwe Pan experience. After that, we'll make our way to Maun. We'll stay a night in Maun, and then from Maun, we'll make our way to Moremi Game Reserve, which will be the end of our trip and a nice highlight as well at Moremi. And then from Moremi, we'll make our way back to Maun. So the trip starts in Big Falls and then ends in Maun.
So, and what I always say to my agents and also to travelers alike is the beauty about this trip is it's not just safari in a vehicle. Your driving distances, some of the days are quite long, but what you see by traveling through Botswana and Zimbabwe and the amount of activities and the variety of activities you're doing on this trip is very unique compared to any other group safari that is out there at the moment. From obviously your boat cruises in Ntwerwe National Park, as well as game drives, your dhow experience in Victoria Falls on the Zambezi River, and being on Lake Kariba on a houseboat, and obviously your wildlife encounters in Hwange National Park, and for me, Matobo, which will always hold a very special place in my heart. It's the first place where I've been in the world where I saw 0 city lights around me. And rhino tracking. I've had the privilege to do rhino tracking, and it's certainly a very, very unique experience. And I know that the activity of seeing meerkats is something that is certainly a highlight for all of our guests. And then we've talked about the Kariba Game Reserve in many of our live episodes and product trainings before. And that is obviously part of the highlights as well at the end of the trip, so more wildlife encounters. We will today not speak more into that. So our guest experiences, obviously we let the feedback speak for itself. This is exactly why guests say every day tops the previous events. And some clients even said I would be happy to do this tour over and over again, which is not always the case when people do a round trip like this. Johan, what's next on your trip, on your presentation?
So I just quickly want to go through where the clients will be staying. We're not going to go in detail into this itinerary like you mentioned before. We're going to focus on some of the wow factors later. But just to give a quick overview, on day 1, when we stay in Victoria Falls, we'll stay at Zambezi River Lodge. On day 2 and 3, we'll stay at a very nice Chobe Safari Lodge that's bordering Chobe National Park. So the location is very nice of Chobe, overlooking the Chobe River. Then on day 4 and 5, Elephant's Eye and Hwange. Another very special experience, a very nice lodge to stay at. Like I mentioned before, some of the experiences and lodges on this trip is very, very high standard. So guests will be very surprised on this trip as well. Then on day 6 and 7, Zambezi cruise safaris will be on Lake Kariba on a houseboat. So this is again something different, something unique, and the clients get to experience on the houseboat. From the houseboat, we'll go to the amazing Amalinda Lodge. We'll talk about that a little bit later in more detail. Then on day 10, we'll be at Ntwerwe Lodge and Planet Baobab and Makgadikgadi Pans. Then we'll make our way to Maun at Tamalakani River Lodge. It's just outside of Maun, so it's not in the town itself. And then after Tamalakani, we'll end off our trip at Bedouin Bush Camp. That's in Moremi Game Reserve. So this just to give you a quick overview of some of our lodges that we'll stay at. Then next, we're going to talk about our wow factors. So this is all what makes this trip so unique and different. I'm very excited we're also going to have some guest speakers that's going to come in, and we're going to focus on Hwange National Park. Then we're going to go over to our houseboat experience on Lake Kariba. And then Katja mentioned before at Matobo, we're going to talk about the Rhino tracking, which is a very unique and different experience. I myself also like sundowners, and also on this day, we're going to view Rhodes's grave as well, which is on a very unique spot at Matobo, overlooking the whole of Matobo on these massive, huge rock boulders. So that's also something to experience with a nice sundowner. And then after that, we'll see the meerkats at Ntwerwe Pan. So this is the wow factors that we're going to focus on next.
Cool. So I'm going to welcome Norbert, one of our professional guides who has taken a number of guests on this trip. Welcome, Norbert. It's nice to have you here, and I can finally also see your face. How are you doing?
I'm all right, and you? How is everyone?
Hi, Norbert. Good, thanks.
Hi, Ron. How are you doing? Thank you.
Good, Norbert. So, Norbert, you've done these trips a lot of times before. And we first up want to talk about some of our wow factors that we have on our trip. So if you're going to talk, we're going to start with Hwange National Park. What makes this park such a unique and different experience, and what can guests see while they're in the park itself? If you can just give us a quick overview of Hwange.
Hwange National Park, being one of the largest parks in the world, and this is the largest in Zimbabwe. All right. There is a lot to eat. There is a lot of animals. Take for instance, the species. There's over 100 species of animals there, and the Hwange National Park is home to about 50,000 elephants, and it is home to the Africa's largest population of the endangered wild dogs. Also, there is several species of birds recorded in that park, about 500 species of birds.
So that sounds incredible, Norbert. Yeah, so when clients go on a safari, what do you normally explain to the clients when they go on a safari for the first time in Hwange? I've also got a map here of Hwange National Park. So you've mentioned it's one of the biggest parks in Zimbabwe, so you can see how big Hwange is. And we're going to stay at Elephant's Eye, and then on the next day we're going to do a full day game drive in Hwange. So what will guests normally get to experience while they go on a game drive in Hwange?
There's quite a lot. Most of them will be expecting to see elephants. You know, there's like I mentioned earlier on, that there's quite a number of elephants. So guests are expecting to see the elephants. But we have cats as well. So yeah, that's more freedom.
Thanks, Norbert. Would you say Hwange National Park is one of your favorite national parks?
Yes, it is. It is one of my favorite parks because there is a lot to be seen, and the good thing is there are no fences. It's the animals move freely around, so that makes it unique as compared to other parks where there are fences. Also, the animals can come to our lodge to Elephant Eye freely with no fences.
Thank you, Norbert, for sharing your experience and for giving us some details on Hwange National Park. And thanks for joining us today. And hopefully we'll be able to get you back on the road soon, so you can get our guests on the road and tell them more and show them everything that you know and that you've experienced, and share the stories of Zimbabwe and Hwange National Park for real. So thanks very much for your contribution. Johan, where do we go next? What's our next wow factor in here?
So next up will be Lake Kariba, where clients will get to go on a houseboat. This is a very also different experience. The clients don't normally get to go on a houseboat when they go to Africa. So here we've got Byron from Zambezi Cruise Safaris. Byron, welcome. We're very excited to talk to you today about your product that you're offering on Lake Kariba. So we'll be staying for 2 nights on this itinerary. Clients will start from Binga, and then we'll have a 2-night safari. So if you can just explain to us briefly, Byron, about your product and what clients can expect to experience while they're on your houseboat and also on Lake Kariba as well.
Thanks, Jan. Yeah, Lake Kariba offers which adds a different contrast to the safari. I mean, we're offering a proper cruise product on Lake Kariba. It's one of the world's biggest man-made lakes, still the biggest lake by water volume. It is situated about 90 kilometers down from the Zambezi, from Victoria Falls, and it's in the heart of the travel area. So it's after the hustle and bustle of your early morning game drives, Victoria Falls, I've seen the falls and seen Hwange. We set into a nice relaxing cruise. All our products, being a boat's very different, but it's all luxury. It's got everything's en suite, air conditioned, and you're in an area that's untouched wilderness. A lot of every day is relaxing, sit back, cruising. It's a photographer's paradise. The bird life. For the fishermen, we have the famed tiger fish. We have several species of bream, and there's a wildlife. It doesn't have the wildlife of the Chobe or Hwange or Matobo Hills, but there is wildlife. And but you're in an area where you'll not see another boat. You'll be exploring late afternoon, early mornings, excursions on small tender boats, exploring the rivers, lots of hippos, a bunch of crocodiles. And yeah, we also have professional guides on board, so you'll get a history of the Zimbabwe, learn about the local Tongan people that were displaced during the building of this lake, and there's a story to it. So it's nice. The people will leave a cruise educated on not only Zimbabwe, but also on the lake, and there's a history behind it. We have local guides that are experienced, that have grown up in the area. So you will get a feeling, you'll feel like you've learned something about the country. So it's a bit educational, but also be cultural and have a bit of wildlife. But most importantly, you'll be able to sit back and relax and enjoy your holiday.
Byron, I think that houseboating, the Zimbabweans have really perfected houseboating. Would you say that's right?
Yes, the Zimbabwe houseboating is a very much a Zimbabwean thing. So what Zambezi Cruise Safaris did is the typical houseboat was you would have shared bathrooms, you would have cook your own food and be very communal, like a self-catering. So we took it to the next level and took a Zimbabwean thing that was popular, that everybody knew about, and we took it made it a floating hotel. So a bit of luxury, so for the international clients, because there are thousands of houseboats on Lake Kariba, but there's not many that are en suite catered for. But it's definitely a Zimbabwean thing. It's very much relaxing, and it's a truly unique Zimbabwean thing, and it's nothing else you'd experience on the itinerary. And there's only one Lake Kariba, so you will never anywhere in the world that you struggle to find something similar. So it's very unique lake experience.
So Byron, I flew over Lake Kariba last year, April, and I was quite surprised about the size, of that lake, and it really felt like I was flying over an ocean. Do you know how big the lake actually is?
So Lake Kariba,
when you are on a boat, you don't see there. I'm sure sometimes you're at places where you can't see the shore clearly.
Lake Kariba is 270 kilometers long and 40 kilometers wide. It does border Zambia and Zimbabwe, and it's actually the Zambezi River runs through the center, and the Zambezi River actually demarcates Zimbabwe and Zambia. And it's on average, it's 90 to 110 meters deep. It's a sea out there. We can in the stormy season have waves up to 6-7 meters. So yeah, in some parts of the lake, when you're in the Sengwe Basin, which you will cruise through on this itinerary, that you can't. There's no land in sight. There's just a horizon of water, which also gives the most unbelievable sunsets. Kariba sunsets are famous and has the backdrop of the trees, but it's a sea. It's massive, and it's unique. It's hard to explain. People often arrive there, and they try and expect to see a small lake, but because it's man-made, but it's a really big experience, and it's hard to explain. And fortunately, people can't comprehend what they're going to until they arrive there. So that's one of the beauties of it, is it like undersells itself until you arrive there, and then there's the wow factor of cruising out into this unknown water.
But your mute is still on. Byron, if you can talk about the activities a little bit while clients on the houseboat experience. On this itinerary, we talk about Zimbabweans like their houseboats, but they also like their barbecues and the sunset experiences. There's also a wow factor for one of your trips is you also offer a barbecue on a secluded island. Can you also talk a little bit more about that? That also sounds very interesting and unique and different, Yeah.
So on the itinerary, most of the activities are obviously water based. We do offer on the itinerary, a guided nature bushwalk in a river where the clients can have a look, dig up some crocodile eggs, have a look at some spore, learn about lies of the land. But yeah, one of the highlights is the beach bride, where we have a late evening. We sit on the beach under the stars. Our local guides go through the stargazing, look at the stars, because the sky is the sky is clear, and yeah, it's a unique way of doing it. Sitting on the lake shores, there's not another boat in sight. There, we turn off all the generators on the vessels. We sit in complete silence, and it's untouched, and that's the beauty. There'll be no radios playing. You won't see another client. But there are, as I said, most of the activities where we're exploring the rivers. There's lots of river systems in the Sengwe Basin. Rivers we can explore down up to 20, 30 kilometers in small boats. There's abundance of bird life. So you will learn about birds. There are certain birds that for people with birding lists will add on average 10, 20 birds to their list that they don't see in other parts of the world. So the activities are they're very unique. And every day you go out there on the lake, it's different weather, different scenery. You will see elephants, you will see buffalo. There's abundance of small life. It's and every river has a different contrasting backdrop. Some of them are gorgeous, some of them are open bays and plains. So it's very different, unique, and it makes for pictures that you won't get anywhere else in the world. And again, going back to the most thing, it's untouched, it's exclusive, and you know that it's there for you only. You'll probably be the only clients out there. We're the only people operating in the Binga area. There's no one else operating there, so it is literally untouched. You will see the true Zimbabwean. You'll see the people surviving with their kapenta rigs and people who are making a living off of the lake, such as with fish and as well as growing crops and stuff like that. So you'll get a true, real Zimbabwean experience.
That sounds great. Thanks so much, Byron.
Thanks, Byron. This is great, and great for the details. And thanks, Johan, for taking over there when I was babbling away while being muted. I was saying, Byron, obviously that picture on the bottom left is so telling of Lake Kariba, and that's also where it shows it's a man-made lake. So also for our agents, obviously Zambezi Cruise Safaris also operates beyond the package of our safaris. So go visit their website or contact Byron if you want to have any details on their tailor-made and FIT packages and other cruise options on Lake Kariba. So thanks, Byron. It was lovely having you. And thanks for all the details. And we're moving swiftly, Johan, I guess, on to Matobo and Matobos.
Yes, next on the itinerary, we're going to be at Matobo Hills, staying at the beautiful Amalinda Lodge, and we've got Sharon here from Amalinda. Welcome, Sharon.
Hi, guys. Nice to meet you guys.
Sorry,
So
I need to be a little bit on mute here because my background noise, I'm sure, is terrible right now with these builders. But Sharon, welcome, and I would love you to tell us everything about Amalinda Lodge, which is no longer called Camp Amalinda, and Matobo Hills, why it's so special to you. Tell us about the scenery, about the feeling once you're there, and then after that, let's talk about Rhino tracking.
Okay, cool. So on this itinerary, it's fantastic. You're coming from Lake Kariba, which is one of the most amazing sights that you'll see. But when you get to Matobos, this is what we feel is the heart of Zimbabwe. It's where the real soul of our people and certainly the senses that you feel there and the spirituality that you feel there, it is considered the soul of Zimbabwe, and we feel it's the soul of Africa. And mainly because when I talk about the spirituality of Matobos, it goes back in time to over 2,000 years ago when the San Bushmen took over this area and etched their art on the rocks in Matobo. So there's over 1,500 charted sites of Bushman paintings in this area. Some of them are easy to access. Some of them take a little bit more hiking to get there. So depending on the group's mobility, we can structure which sites that you actually go and see. But that is the spirituality, because that's like a lot of our leaders go to Matobos to find the connection with the gods. So there's certain sacred spaces in Matobo, sacred hills that you are not allowed to point at. It's like a tradition not to use your finger to point at, and you'll learn about all these traditions. and what each sacred mountain, and we call them whale-top dwalas. They are big granite domes, and they all like have these balancing rocks. One of the pictures that you're showing me here now is a famous one of the mother and child. You can see there's the mother with the baby on her back, and that's a very famous site in the Matobo Hills. So not only is there the spirituality, but the historical value of Matopus leads me to talk about Rhodes's grave. And Cecil John Rhodes was the founder of what was then Rhodesia, and his vision was to create a railway line from Cape Town to Cairo. And when he got to Matopus, he was so in awe of the beauty. He felt this connection with the gods as well, and he wanted to be buried in this space. And it's on a famous hilltop called Amalinda Lodge. And Amalinda Lodge is a place that he used to frequent and send out his scouts to go and make sure that he still had that space, that he knew where to go, because that was where he wanted to be buried. And we visit that place on one of the last days for sunsets. And when we talk about, Johan was talking about where, what do you do for sunsets and what are special sunset features, being up there with our guides, and they tell you about the interaction of Cecil John Rhodes and our chiefs, which were King Mazilakatsi and Lobengula, his son, Chief Lobengula, and how they started to do all the land acquisition deals and the mining deals, and the good and the bad part of the history of those, of that era. So that's also a phenomenal historical site there. And then we'll talk about the Rhino just now, but I'll talk about Amalinda now. So as you said, we've rebranded Amalinda about 4 years ago. So we are no longer Camp Amalinda.
I am sorry.
Because it took 26 years to go from Amalinda to Amalinda Lodge was quite hard to get the industry to get onto that, because Amalinda is now 30 years old, and it is one of the most iconic lodges that are probably in Southern Africa in the way it is built. So when we talk about the Sand Bushmen and how they frequented this area, we decided to build the lodge back into the hill structure. So when you're driving up to camp, you can't see camp. You don't know where you're going, and all of a sudden you arrive in this reception area, and you go like, well, is this it? No. And then when you go from there into the hillside and into the certain rooms that are all built in and back into the rock features, it's one of the big wow factors of actually being in Amalinda is seeing the different rooms and people moving around to those different rooms, because not one is the same. So each has incorporated the hillside and the rock into it, and you have these outside showers and outside baths, and you are immersed in nature. It's very ecologically designed lodge.
So Sharon, who came up with that idea of building it into the rocks?
So it was originally designed, and the concept was decided by my brother-in-law, Dave Bennett. And in those days, it was only like 4 tents. And then the main lounge area was this built back into this amphitheater of granite. So when you're in this amphitheater, you look out along, it's quite high up. So it's in a Bushman shelter. So we built it up, and we found Bushman artifacts in there, and it became a museum's archaeological digging site. So we had to stop work and get, the museums to come up, and they actually printed a paper on the Amalinda site. So when you're sitting in that lounge area in this amphitheater, it's really cool in the summer months and incredibly warm in the winter months, because the rocks hold the heat of the day, but they also really cool it down in the summer. So it was designed, that idea was designed by Dave. And then when we got involved in the business, my husband and I, we expanded it a lot more. So instead of having, the 6 rooms, we built on to have 9. And the last one is our honeymoon suite called the Rosa Suite. And that has an amazing swing bridge that goes from the main bedroom area to a distant rock. And we walk along the swing bridge to this viewing sala. And there's this magnificent backdrop of the Matobo Hills rocks. So you see the black eagle there, beautiful home, the black eagle, hyrax, Duffy's hyrax, leopard, very common in those areas. But Matopus is not well known or famous for its big game. So, for the people who are listening in here, don't talk about the big game experience that you will see in Matopus. You will see rhino, and you will see leopard if you're lucky. Leopards are really harder to find. But it's the history, the culture, and the spirituality. Which will let me go on now before you interrupt and tell me to do so. Katja, I'll tell you about the rhino tracking. So imagine when you're in East Africa or Uganda or Rwanda and you're visiting the gorillas. It's up there with gorilla tracking. So, we are yet to really promote the Matopus experience with walking with rhino in that sort of category. And it's something that I'm working on all the time, is to get people to understand how amazing this is. So you have these massive white and black rhinos, and you can get pretty close to them on foot. So they are protected by scouts 24/7. So it's quite easy to, on a one-day experience, find these rhinos. So on a 2-night experience, a 2-night stay, it's pretty much a guarantee that you will be able to get out there and see them. But when I talk about, we like to rather approach the white rhino on foot than the black rhino, because as you know, black rhino are a little bit more cheeky. So the white rhino, the eyesight is not very good, so you can get pretty close to them, maybe about 3 or 4 meters. And this provides for some epic photography. But just a sense of being with them on the ground, and you see the size of these animals, just takes your breath away.
I remember, so I've only had this experience once. I think it was 2010 actually, and I had the privilege of doing it together with Alan Elliott. And at that time, Alan must have been in his 70s, and I remember him. We were driving through Matopus, and then all of a sudden he's like, "There's rhinos." And it's just, again, showed me how wildlife is also just so well camouflaged. I saw nothing. I saw rocks. I mean, Matopus is full of rocks. I mean, come on, it's just rocks. And then off he bolts. And now I was like, how old was I? 27. And he was gone. I really had to run to keep up with him. Yeah. He was really a man of the bush, so he can run really fast in the bush. And and that it is... it was, I must say, it was extremely inspirational and humbling to see these massive, these giants so close, and so many of them, not just 1 or 2. There were 7, and I think that's a great idea, and it's a great way of marketing it. If we compare it to Uganda or Rwanda gorilla tracking, I haven't thought of that, but it certainly is definitely up there, the experience.
Well, if we start putting on fees that cost the same amount to get to see a gorilla as to get to see a rhino, well, then you might not be so happy with me. But that's the plan.
You're right. You're right.
And that money will then go back into the park and into their protection. And having said that, we have great protection of these animals, and and a very healthy population of black and white. If you're really keen on the black rhino tracking, it means that we only go with you if you're really fit and in small groups, and it's a full-on day, because you actually walk through those gormors. We call them gormors. They're like big just valleys of rock, and to find them, because the black rhino live in more dense habitat than the white rhinos. They like more of the open savanna. And that's why we call Amalinda a wilderness of granite, because it's about 100 square kilometers of these massive dwellers and granite dwellers.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sharon. You can be really proud of the product that you have created there and that you're running there. And I hope our listeners get a little bit more of a feel of what Matopus is really about. And again, obviously, if you want to get in touch with Sharon or with Savannah, who's running the marketing now, I'm sure you know where to find it, Amalinda Collection, and get in touch with them directly to include them in any of your packages, or for FIT travelers, whatever you're working on. Thank you so much, Sharon. It was lovely that you joined us and had the time.
Thanks, Katja. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Cheers. All right, Johan, and I think the last highlight of this itinerary that we wanted to talk about today, in those last 2 minutes that we have left over, are the Makgadikgadi Pans, and especially the Ntwerwe Pans. So the Makgadikgadi Pans are the largest collection of salt pans in the world, and they comprise of 3 separate salt pans. So one is called, and I do apologize, I will not pronounce them properly. One is the Soa Pan, the next one is the I Pan, and the third one is the Ntwerwe Pan, which cover altogether 12,000 square kilometers, and are located in the northeastern part of Botswana. So we cross a border relatively south from Zimbabwe into Botswana, and they are the largest salt pans in the world. And I know when you fly from Johannesburg into Victoria Falls, or even from Cape Town into Victoria Falls, you actually do fly over them, and it is quite a magnificent site. So Makgadikgadi Pans is well known again for the vast scenery, and just seeing very, very little actually, but just the space, quite spiritual as well, and quietness. And I would like to bring back Norbert, who has taken quite a few of our guests to Makgadikgadi Pans, and the highlight here that guests have on the trip is actually that trip to Ntwerwe Pan and the experience with the meerkats. So Norbert, welcome back.
Thank you, Katja and John.
Norbert, and tell us what guests can expect from the meerkat experience that you're taking them on. And maybe sit back a little bit so we can see your face besides your biceps.
Oh, oh yeah, I see. Yeah, our guests enjoy, like you have said, that the Makgadikgadi is one of the largest salt pan in the world. I'll add to that it is the Makgadikgadi pan in total. The area is bigger, larger than Switzerland. You know, it's like, so it is the remains of lake. It's a remains of the dried lake. It dried some years back. So we take people on to Ntwerwe for they enjoy seeing the meerkats. The meerkats. So we see the meerkats can be seen gazing through the surrounding grassland. So usually also at times during the greens part of the season, when it's green, we expect to see zebras migrating. The herds of zebras migrating. You can see up to about maybe 20,000 zebras now migrating. And of course, we'll see other animals there, such as the oryx, the eland, and the red hartebeest. And it's something to be mentioned about the Ntwerwe area, or let me say the Makgadikgadi, is that area is home to a cluster of the millennium-old baobab trees, right?
Thank you, Norbert. And for everyone who might not know that there are 7 different species of baobab trees, and then obviously one of those is found here in Africa, one in Australia, and the rest all in Madagascar. But thank you so much, Norbert. And I'm sure this was one of the first times that you actually had to deliver your safari and African knowledge on a live stream or on a recording. I know it's very different, to having it to guests directly, but thank you very much for giving us these details and adding to the conversation. We truly appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Norbert.
All right, Johan, I think with that, we finished going through the wow factors of the itinerary. I know that after that trip, clients are head off to Maun, spend another 2 nights in Kwai and Moremi, and then end their trip with their flight back home from Maun. So I hope you guys got a more detailed overview of the itinerary. I thank all of the guests that joined us. And for more details or live availability on our website, please go and visit jenmansafaris.com or email us directly. Also take note of that there are relaxed terms, cancellation terms for new bookings on any of our trips coming up, or for 2021 and 2022. And we're looking forward to welcoming you again in Africa soon. Thanks, Johan.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.